Floor prep, everybody knows everything about floor prep. No, you don't. It's imperative that each and every step is followed through floor prep, from A to Z. It's even more imperative that you follow a system. We ask questions, can we mix, can we have one brand of screed versus another brand of LVT glue, and so on and so forth. These are the questions which are always posed, and it's not just a case of a product-focused opinion, it is actually a fact. If you start mixing different chemicals, different products, yes, they might work together, but you have that chance of a failure. All right? Alex will get further into that, but the reason why you're sitting here is the purpose of it is to embark on a journey of training and orientation. That our clients and their teams know exactly what to do, how to do it, and why to do it. Otherwise, you make my lives miserable with site inspections. But thank you for making time. I hope this will be beneficial to you all.
And if not, you got some to eat and some drinks, so it was also okay to be here.
And yes, in due course, each and every one of you and your companies will be represented by Azura in the line of product orientation. For those that think they know everything, maybe they do, but there's always that little something that you can learn from. That will be my task. I will be doing the technical side as well as the site inspections. So hence, this is the beginning of a great journey going into good product preparation, client, what do you call it, education, that they can bring that through to their installers as well. And without further ado, thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Louis. So once again, welcome. And with my favorite word for today, damn stock, I would like to start. So I'm Alex, 37. I'm an educated floor installer, or if you want it like that, in German we call it Parkettlegermeister und Fußbodenlegermeister. So it's a kind of, put it in bachelor if you want it like that, for floor installation. Means I went for a couple of years to school, then you have to work in that business, and then you are allowed to go even to that school. And for sure, just for the only reason I will do these jobs on the weekend, you know what I'm talking about, just to stay in line, to know what I'm talking when I'm here to talk to you. And yes, 2 words. My 200 slide presentation I cannot put now right there, and I don't want that you all will slip in. We will try to make it really more practical than any theory, because I'm an installer by myself and I know how it is. I remember very well when some people from other manufacturer came and they just go through their, oh, that's hard for me not to use bad words. They go through this presentation and you are sitting there saying, okay, it's nice, but is it also really working like you are describing? And that's what I really like to show to you for sure. I totally understand these are small areas. Job sites are different. Job sites are never the same. Conditions are totally different. But this is the only option in smaller portions to show a little bit about the products. And also, I totally know that most of you know how to do the subfloor prep, but many times because of time and also many times of money, you're not doing it necessarily, but it's very important. And especially when we are talking about the installation of resilient floors, LVT, vinyl sheet, because you are installing 2.5 to 3, maybe 3.5, let's say 4 millimeter material on top, and anything you mess around, it will be transferred into your covering. And nobody wants to see some cracks from the subfloor up into the, I don't know, vinyl sheet or something like that. And like you see, like we set up here, it's a little bit like what are you doing on a job site in the right ways to prepare the subfloor, and for sure at the end also to adhere the vinyl sheet. So that's how I try to make a kind of a small story to go that way around. And let me ask you, what is the biggest issue many times on job sites? Is it humidity? And the screed was installed yesterday and people want to move in tomorrow. So that makes it easy, because that's the big issue all over the world, that today installed and tomorrow people want to move in, which is sometimes stupid and simply crazy, period. I know what I'm saying, and now you will say, yeah, but the people want to do this. Yes, I totally understand, but there are some simple things that even people want to do, you cannot change. To give an example, an installed screed needs simply the 28 days, and this is not because I'm from Wakol and I'm saying this, because of the property of the cement inside needs this time to, let's say, to relax. A cement-based product will cure and will go up into the corners, and after more or less 28 days, could be 30 days, will also come down if you are not like that. So doing an installation before these days can only give you more headaches, because just imagine you installed and then you put your skirtings and everything is close. And when it goes down after 28 days, you will have a gap between skirtings. So these are just simple things that can happen. Till now, I don't even went into the discussion about humidity, what will happen if, and so on. Because actually, before we are doing almost anything on a job site, we should check a little bit. Condition means humidity in the floor, humidity in the atmosphere. Temperature would be also nice if it's on a good level, so as long as it's not minus degrees. I think here in South Africa it's not so many times, I hope at least, minus degrees, just to have this also in mind. And for sure, after you did, let's say, this inspection, so with the Traymax or whatever tools you use for checking the subfloor, which is, I hope, or let's say like that, which I really hope that you are doing, at least something. It doesn't matter. At least moisture testing, then also checking the hardness of the floor. However, use a hammer. See what happens if you hammer once. Is it still hard or will it break, or what happened? Just to have in mind, how can I fix it to do my next step and to get the proper installation. Then, how do you start at least? So let's think we figure out everything is more or less fine according to the conditions. Even if it's humid, that's okay. Sanding. Do you sand the subfloor before you start doing anything, or vacuum or brooming, something like that? So really the first steps when you're on a job site, what are you doing? And please tell me that you use a vacuum. Sometimes at least. Oh, nobody's saying anything. Yes, you are, Nick, that's nice. No, I'm asking this just because of simple reason. I told this already a couple of times. Yes, you have to have electrician to use the vacuum. This is also what I learned this morning. But in other countries, they have electrician and they have a vacuum and they say, we broom because this is culture. We don't use the vacuum. And it's like, now it's hard. Why the hell are you not using a vacuum if you already got it in the damn corner? Use it, because it's just simply stupid. You are not faster with the broom, and definitely you won't work cleaner. Believe me, because when I was a trainee, this is what I did the first 6 months. Just brooming, till they allowed me to take the vacuum. When I said, why, you kidding me? Why don't you give me the vacuum from the beginning? No, you have to figure out the best way. And now you know that brooming is not the best way, so use the vacuum. So at least, I don't know, sanding, maybe, depending what you got on the floor, vacuuming, could be also stronger, let's say, preparing, like grinding, if needed. So once again, these are several and different scenarios that you can get on a job site and how to deal with, or what possibly you can do. I don't say you should do, but you can do at the end. Something of them. I would be happy if you would do this. And then, mostly, especially, I don't know, how are you manage this? If you install, or if customer want to install a vinyl sheet, do you recommend every time, have to be careful, don't use the word self-leveling compound, because I heard a couple of years ago in Jailburg somebody did this. They applied self-leveling compound and they had to go to the judge, because they said, yeah, I put it on the floor, but it was not self-leveling. So it never moved nowhere. So that's why I prefer to say using the word smoothing compound or just leveling compound. And do you recommend for the installation of vinyl sheet, especially a glue down vinyl sheet, the leveling compound or a leveling compound? Great, perfect. Yeah, always I like that, because that's a good one. They are in let's say like that, in Europe, we are not in Europe, more or less in Germany and surrounding, you are forced. That's definitely in the DIN, in a European DIN, they really say prior installation of resilient floors. It doesn't matter what it is. It is very small written in the bathroom. Then you don't need necessary to level. But actually, a leveling compound is every time not recommended. It is needed, and everybody have to level. That's why leveling compound helps at the end quite a bit. Not only for having a good surface, but also saving material when it comes to adhesive, definitely. But what do you have to do before you apply your leveling compound? Excuse me? That's good. That's something that you should do before you start already preparing, but that's also very, very good. You need a primer before you put your leveling compound. And like I learned in the last day, same issues, maybe 1 of 10 job sites, you got a screed where just a normal primer is needed. So means the screed is hard, it's not humid, so you really need a bonding bridge for the leveling compound later on. So a normal primer. What do you prime? For sure, to get a good connection for the leveling compound. If you want prime, and once again, the leveling compounds are not anymore so, how can I say, dust like 15 or 20 years ago. They are quite a bit high-tech products. So you saw this leveling compound here. I just stepped in after, I think not even an hour, and it's not ready for installation, but it's ready for Wakol. And I was happy that we used this because I really stepped in not on purpose. It was just, I was talking, hey. But we will see later on the application of that as well. A primer also makes sure that the absorbency of the screed is the same. Why? Otherwise, the water out of the leveling compound will simply penetrate too fast. So water in the leveling compound is not only to be mixed, for sure, this is the main work, if you want it like that, for the leveling compound, but it's also there to allow the ingredients to get strong together. And if you take the water too fast away, which means no primer, it will go in the screed, and then you won't have any connection in between the molecules and some more chemical stuff, that it won't get strong. That's what will happen. And then you possibly have just powder on top. And you didn't get anything. So priming and leveling compound are every time related to each other. And best thing is, every time when you are using a leveling compound or a repair compound, use a primer. And it's not needed to be a moisture barrier or something like that, an ordinary and normal dispersion primer. If everything is good. Like I learned, this is not so many times because you many times have some other issues. But for example, for once again, normal screed, which is pure, not humid, strong enough, and you need a leveling compound pre your installation of LVT vinyl floors, you should put your leveling compound. And therefore, I'm happy that I don't have to put it again out of this big canister into the bucket, because before of that we messed a little bit around, but now it's already here. So the Wakol 3003, it's a dispersion that sounds so weird with 333. I don't even want to see this on the camera, how the 33 is looking like. So the 3003, it's a dispersion-based primer. Can be applied on all absorbent subfloors. It's ready to use, and the consumption is around 150 grams, maybe 200, depending on the absorbency. And the nice thing is simply the curing time. It's around half an hour, maybe 25 minutes. It's really depending on the conditions. And then it is ready for the application of leveling compound. Once again, it's really a cost-effective primer, pre or leveling compounds, where you should definitely use it every time. So the 3303, it's ready to use. It's also possible to get a concentrate, but the guys from Simbos mix it already ready to use for any installer, so they don't have to think about any ratio. This is we can bring this also from Germany here, but you will simply pay for the water out of Pirmasens, which is a great water, but not need to pay for the transport of the water from Germany. So that's why we decide to have the ready-to-use primer, so also that nobody will make some mistakes by the dilution. Great. So once again, there won't be a really big magic. It's a fast and modern primer, pre or leveling compound. Now you want to apply this, yeah? Anything else you did not want to do, huh? There's not so much to see on the camera. Keep the SD card free for Pew 280. That's all what you have to do. So you don't need more, half an hour, ready for installation. So really not a big thing, but definitely the magic which will happen, if you want like that, is for the leveling compound, to make sure that you will have a good and proper connection for the leveling compound later on. Half an hour, then you should put your leveling compound and you're fine with that.
Sorry,
question.
Yes, sir.
So if you put a leveling compound on that, will the leveling will the floor take longer to dry before you lay because of the
You have to let it dry to dry, and after half an hour you are ready.
once you've done the leveling?
What do you mean? On screed or on chipboard? Let's imagine that this is the screed, because if you put it, won't take longer. So it's the same time if the primer is needed, and then the curing time, it's depending from formulation to formulation of the leveling compound, and it will be ready depending how thick it is, the conditions, 12 hours, 24 hours, depending also how thick you are going. But putting a primer won't slow down the curing of the leveling compound, definitely not. But good question, thank you very much. And now it comes to a little bit more critical, or I learned that we do not call it problems, challenging substrates when we got some moisture, when we got weak subfloor. Therefore, you cannot only use a normal dispersion primer, because a normal dispersion primer will only bind the last dust, create the same absorbency for the leveling compound. That's almost everything that a primer or a normal dispersion-based primer will do. Not more, not less. Anything else is not really true. Whoa, that's really hard not to use bad words. Really have to be focused on that. So, but if you got a challenging subfloor, like humidity, which is mostly the biggest challenge, and also weak subfloor, you should have in mind that you don't have to use two-component products or even epoxy bed products. Why? Because it's stupid to do it if it's not needed. Epoxy can tell you the story. You know it already. You can tell the story also right now. No, I did once in Düsseldorf at the airport, 600 square meter, nothing specific, but I was not really aware of epoxy. And I call them experienced guys. I don't want to say the older guys in the team. They said, okay, let this stupid guy, let him do the epoxy, because I will show you how fast I can mix two-component epoxy. I remember exactly, it was now I don't tell the product name. It was a metal canister with the B component on top, and you have to take the screwdriver to open the B component to go into the A component. I didn't know how at least dangerous epoxy was at this time. And I also did not have any security. I don't know, I had just normal small gloves, and that was all. After I mixed for the 600 square meter, I got for 4 weeks really bubbles all over my finger. It was fun because you could saw, this was my gloves, here was the t-shirt, and between that you saw all the allergic reaction. And I'm really definitely not allergic to, I would say, to nothing. But now I know, or I knew at this time, allergic to epoxy. Same, my pants, I could put them like that. And I was happy that at this time I was using, or I need to have some glasses, because every time when I open a tin, there were every time some drops that come out. Now, I didn't have any security glasses because I was so smart, but no, the older guys were the smart guys that they say, let them do, and we will have a cigarette outside. So not need to use dangerous products for your health, or at least also for the installer's health. For sure, and also price-wise, I bet you can have a better solution and result with Pew 280, or honestly even similar products. Don't use bad products. I want to say, I have to take care. You have to cut a lot and to do some work there. Sorry, therefore, I try my best. Yeah, coming to that, Pew 280, it's a one-component product. No mixing and no waste at the same time, because this is also a big disadvantage in two-component products. After you have mixed them, if you don't use it, you throw it away, because the chemical reaction is done, and then you cannot use it again. You can, I don't want to recommend to drink it, but it's an EC1 Plus product, like all the products we will speak this day. EC1 Plus product means also that they will definitely also fulfill, I don't know, BREEAM certification from the UK, as well as LEED certification from the US. So coming from California, they are very strict when it comes to any kind of environmental regulation. The consumption, it's also quite interesting, especially comparing to some different epoxy. It is 150, maybe 200 grams per square meter, depending on, for sure on the absorbency, if you use it like a normal primer or to solidify the subfloor if it's weak. For moisture barrier, you have to apply 2 coats, and means in total 350 grams, which is still definitely less than a lot of other products. The nice and thing on that is also the curing time, because it's a half an hour to 45 minutes max per coat, which saves simply time. And like everywhere, I bet also here in South Africa, time still is money. And you don't have to come the next day to put a second coat or something like that. And I did not even mention right now, the Pew 280 will block moisture up to 98% RH, 6% by CM, and like we figure out later or this morning, around more or less the same 6% by Tramex. This is what you mostly use here for moisture measurement, correct? Okay, cool.
Alex, I was asked a question earlier after our first session, where when you take your initial moisture read and then you apply your 3003, if there's any doubts, before throwing the screed down, the next protocol would be to go to PU to put that down. Can one take another moisture reading on top of that? And if so, what would the reflection be?
So if you apply 3003, the moisture reading will be the same like before, because it's simply it's nothing blocking or something like that. So if before you apply 3003, you should be sure that there is no moisture. And if you measure and you see that there is moisture inside, put the 3003 by side, because this won't be the right product, because you will still have the humidity underneath. And then you have to switch to the Pew 280, because you figure out there is humidity, and humidity have to be blocked first. It sounds like Donald Trump, America first, but really humidity have to be blocked first. Don't go crazy things like, and I know this, that people apply leveling compound and then they go on top on the leveling compound to block the moisture. This is definitely the wrong way and would be destroyed later on. Possibly it will work for a couple of days, and in the moment when you install, and especially the dense products like LVT or even worse, vinyl sheet, you will see what will happen. Because the humidity still wants to go out. First, Pew 280 will block it. If you got a good leveling compound, it will deal for a bit longer with the humidity, a good cement-based one, and then it will be destroyed, because the humidity won't go through the Pew 280, and even if it will go through, then it will be blocked by the PVC covering that you put on top, and then good luck with this result. Because then the only answer is take everything out, down to the screed, and start again the preparation. And this is exactly, it's a good question, because you have to have this in mind. It is every time, a wood floor installation, it's also, dangerous is the wrong word, but challenging if you have humidity. But wood, at least it's a hydrophobic product, that means can take humidity and give it back away. A dense product like a vinyl sheet, it is dense. If humidity comes from underneath, it will be destroyed. That's why block the moisture first. And then think about what to do. Using the Pew 280, it is easy. There is no mixing. You can use it, I recommend use it out of the bucket or use it out of something. Don't pour it on the floor, because you will simply waste material, and it's not needed. It's good for me, but it's not good for you and not for the customer at the end if the consumption is 3 times more than it needs to be. And also for the product, very important, less is really more. Don't have in mind like some epoxy systems that for some epoxy system you need actually a layer of 2, 3, 4 millimeters. This is something you do not need. And that anyway, it is almost impossible to create, but I knew that some people did it already, create a film of Pew 280. Because the really big difference, Pew 280 will penetrate into the capillars of the screed, and it will block the moisture there. In the same token, they will also solidify on that way, because it really goes inside, blocks the moisture in the capillars, and also connects, if you want it like that, the screed molecules better together to get also a harder screed prior doing the next step. If you apply the Pew 280, then you have, let's say, 2 choices. For wood floor installation, definitely direct installation. You can go directly if the screed is even and fine and nice. You can install directly your wood with, MS228 or other MS products out of the Wakol range. Or you can stick actually, also with the right product, if the subfloor allows you this, so means if it's very even, with a specific adhesive, also for a vinyl sheet, directly on top. Specific do not mean expensive. If this was the question, no, please.
Doubts. So how does this work on tiles?
Why would you, that's a good question, why would you use it on tiles?
I'm just asking.
No, that's a good question. Because it can be useful if you want to use it on tiles or it's non-absorbent. For this, I will show you in a second another product which makes more sense. But it's a good question because look, on tiles, there could be humidity underneath the tiles and never happen anything because they are not affected, and between the gaps, still the humidity can go out. But in the moment when you put a leveling compound, and then there are so many cases, exactly happens like that, put leveling compound, still everything is fine. But when they put the vinyl on top, then the problem starts to begin. Because also, yes?
How do you test them, like you asked the tiles? So you put your tronics down on the tiles.
So that's the point. And that's the reason that the people cannot really measure. That's also, yeah, correct. You cannot really measure the humidity, but you should have this in mind that it can be the only way, honestly, take a piece of the tile out and measure it. But you're totally right. That's exactly the risk. If you don't know how the construction is made, which you, let me be honest, I also don't know from Germany every time how is the dam construction done, because if it's a 50 years old house, maybe you are lucky and the house owner is still somehow there, they can tell you, but most of them, they also say, oh, I don't know, no idea. And that's exactly the good question, because if you expect moisture, but you cannot measure it, it's every time good to have a kind of moisture barrier in your mind to make sure that you won't have any issues later on. And open speaking, if you are on the ground level and there are some tiles, you can also measure, or at least like indication, depending for sure also how the gaps between the tiles are. If they are older one and a little bit bigger, there are different tools that you can, like indication. So I prefer to use this. It shows you digits, which means you can put it quite close to RH, and then, like I also learned this morning, also more or less to the Tramex. And with that one, you can also just measure on the cement-based gapping material. And this will show you definitely if there is maybe an opportunity of humidity inside or not. Correct, yeah. It is not easy. So you see every time a challenge. And coming back to the tiles, if you expect humidity, then correct, you apply it also on tiles. Definitely. Just to make sure that there is no humidity inside. So let me apply the PU. So once again, everybody is highly invited to test it. I recommend mix or shake the PU before you apply, just to make sure that the pigments are all over where they have to be, just to see better the color and where you already applied or not. And because there is no, I don't know, dangerous things inside, I would recommend use some gloves, just because it will be, after a while, quite heavy to clean them from your fingers, especially if it start curing. That's also another recommendation. Make sure when you are using the PU 280, don't mess around with especially white window frames or white doors or stuff like that. Because correct skirtings, put some tape or simply take care from beginning. As long as it's humid and not cured, you can clean it quite good. But if it starts really curing, it will be more than a challenge. And also, most important thing, don't mix it, because it's not needed. The consumption is really 150 grams per square meter, which is, I don't want to say nothing, but put it, or like also have in mind also the view of point of insurance. You don't know if under these tiles is humidity or not. What are you doing? For sure, you have to clarify this with the customer, because they have to pay for it. But if you explain, and I know now people say, but this is in another way in South Africa. Yes, it is, but just explain them and scare them what will happen if we do not do this. Even if they say, yeah, but it's on you. No, it's not on me, because I told you, and we have to take care of that. And now I know that people say, yeah, but this is South Africa. No, I hear this from all over the world. This is here, and this is here, and this is here. You have to know what you are talking to them, and then it will work.
Alex?
Yes, sir?
A lot of installers like to take it that extra mile to try and stretch that bottle. You tell everybody what happens when you add water and close it and leave it for a while.
No, I cannot, because I cannot use the words that the guy in technical department told me when he called me. No. Don't mix it with water. Very important. PU 280 will cure at least by humidity out of the atmosphere, and if it's a humid subfloor, out of the screed. If you mix it with water, it will simply expand. And if something wants to expand, but it cannot because you put it in the canister and you mix it one by one, there is a logical thing what will happen, that it will, I don't want to call it explode, but it will expand very strong, to say it like that. And I don't use the bad words. And when I was in technical department and he called me like really with bad words on the phone, and I said, what the hell is going on? I don't know. I never heard an issue about PU280, so expect the one that they mess around with window frames. Yeah, your product, the worst words that I'm allowed to use. I say, okay, what did you do? So I mix it like every time with water. And then it began to be a party, because I said, I know, it's not the product's problem, it was his, because he did it every time like that. I hate these words, really. I know sometimes I do not get more friends, especially when the people are older, when they say, yeah, we did this the whole time like that. No, you did not. You did it maybe also wrong, and just listen a little bit, because I hate these words. We did it every time like that. Oh, but I will use them as well later on, because there are things that I understand, because I'm doing it like that because I did it every time like that, even if it's stupid. If out of, let's put it like that, out of a job of, I think it was €7,500 installation of wood floor, it became a 35,000 insurance job. Simply, he put it inside, mix it with water, also windows down to the bottom. In winter, in summer, yes, we can also have some warm summer in Germany, and now more than ever. And then it simply, explode is the wrong word. It's expand at one point. If it cannot expand, it will explode, which means walls were already ready. The windows were ready for sure. Ceiling, I don't know, they had this glossy ceilings that you have to, expensive one. Long story short, like I mentioned, €7.5 became a 35,000 euro job for the installer or for the insurance, just because we did it like every time we did it. So don't mix it with water. It's not needed. You don't get nothing more. You got actually more issues if you would mix it with water. And like I said, work out of an upright position. It's just right now for the demo that I'm working on my knees, but there is nothing, how can I say, needed to go on your knees, because application would be really like a normal primer, nothing specific. Once again, the magic will happen if you run it like that in the product itself. So that's what you need. You don't need really a lot of the product. And once again, from my view of point is simply the curing time and the consumption. Half an hour more or less per coat, and do the next step, which means direct installation, especially of wood floors, or LVTs, vinyl sheets. And if a leveling compound is needed, like I'm so happy that all of you will recommend a leveling compound pre installation, we have to do a second step. But before of that, I also want to show you what will happen if you apply too much. You will see it definitely. So don't do it like that on a job site. What will happen if you apply too much? You will simply get foaming, and then your moisture barrier is not close. Not so bad. You can also give them a 60 or 80 sanding with a buffer, clean, vacuum, and put another coat, and then you are safe. But try to avoid this, because it's just simply wasted money. And I think that nobody really wants to throw money away through the window. Give it better to me. I can do something good with that money if you want to waste money. So how long did the PU280 need to cure per coat? She is like at school. The girls in the first row, they every time know the best answer, better than everybody else. Great, correct. Moisture blocking up to 98%. Just application by roller. You can also smell if you want.
No, we smell it from here.
And what do you smell? There is nothing to smell from there. You don't smell anything.
Was it lunch? Sorry, guys.
So you cannot smell it? You want to smell again? Well, you like it, and later on, and you want to take it with you home. So you see, there is actually almost no smell.
Is there no smell?
You want to smell? So what smell did you smell? It was just the lunch, yeah? You know the product? Then it's easy.
Yeah.
But I need this. So for cleaning also PU from your fingers, you can easily use also the Wakol cleaning towels. Feel free to ask, gentlemen. Maybe it's for everybody important, interesting.
Okay.
Expect the dam meter. Dam meter, how was it?
Oh, okay, the game stock. Yeah.
Dame stock.
Game stock. Right, with all this moisture barriers, right, we have like this sub-living skid over there. Then we have to apply a slurry.
What do you want to apply?
Slurry. Do you apply a slurry? No slurry, nothing.
What is sluddy? What is sluddy?
It's almost like stickiness. A stickiness in this
So before you apply the leveling compound. Yeah, that's a good question. I come to that. I give you $20 for this good question. You're totally right, because if you go now with leveling compound, they are here and there are some that possibly work on non-absorbent subfloors, but they are not, let's call it not normal leveling compounds. They are working in a different way. But going directly on a non-absorbent subfloor with a leveling compound, it will possibly stick for a while till you got some really movement on the floor, and then it won't stick anymore. Totally right. If you just feel the PU280, it's very, very smooth. How should a leveling compound really connects very well to this smooth subfloor? And therefore, correct, you need an additional primer which gives you the bonding bridge for the leveling compound. Totally right. Yes.
So you still need to.
You don't need to put down a slurry thingy like a special.
You can also put some sparkling sand, but it doesn't make any sense because that's more work.
So it's
The next step you'll see that we go on to the.
Because how do you do it now? You also put something, if you put epoxy, or what do you use for moisture barrier?
Yeah, moisture barrier.
But what, epoxy based or?
After that, you put down like a slurry thingy.
Correct. And that's how it works, because otherwise you cannot get a good connection to the subfloor.
Okay, it's pink.
If you want another color, you can also get another color. You don't like the pink color? Should we try to put some other color inside?
You're taking purple, you know.
Simply 345 applied on PU280. That's the reason for the pink color, to see it better if you apply it on PU280. To make sure that you apply a closed film all over to assure that a leveling compound will stick to that. But also the same thing to see it also. I remember I asked the same question, why is it pink? I understand that on PU280, which is grayish, bluish, makes sense to have something which you definitely see. But they also told me then, yeah, we did some research and figure out that a big portion of the tiles that are installed are white, whitish, or marble. In that case, you also will see it very well. Because that's when the next point comes, can also be for sure applied on tiles. Prior, you apply your leveling compound for LVT installation. And yes, you have to clean your tiles to make sure that you do not have any other residues of, I don't know, maintenance products or waxes, whatever or with whatever the tiles were cleaned before you are doing that next step. And also correct, you should also make sure that you create on that tile some visible scratches before you apply. If you use a buffer, if you use a grinder, whatever you use. But most important, really clean the tiles. Make sure that there are no residues anymore of waxes on maintenance products. Because simple, if you would go with a primer on top on a non-clean tile, if you want it like that, you would put the primer on the maintenance product. And there is no connection to the tile. So that's why make sure that you can clean it. What you would use for cleaning, for sure we have the right product therefore, but use something aggressive to make sure that all residues are away. And then you're safe. Then you can keep going and do the next step. The 3045, for sure, on top on PU 280. If you need the moisture barrier and then a leveling compound, bless you, you definitely need, how did you call it? Slutty. Okay. Dame stock, slutty. Oh, that will be a lot of new words for me for next days. Let's call it slutty. A slutty primer to create the bonding bridge to the leveling compound. And you will see, if you don't mind, you can touch both to see here without 3045 and with 3045. Really to see the difference, what a primer or a slutty primer will give you for a grip, if you want it like that. Feel free to touch. It's cure, your fingers won't be dirty.
Yeah, this is smooth, man. This one is smooth, that one is tough. What is fire from? That's a slide.
This is the cured slutty.
It's like
That's like a sandpaper.
Correct. That's exactly what you would create with the 3045. And that's the nice thing. You are working, again, everything easy out of a bucket and with the roller. So on epoxy systems, if you want to put a leveling compound, mostly, like I mentioned, this job on the airport with 600 square meter, please imagine who had to carry 2 kilo per square meter of the quartz sand to the job site, sparkling, then take the surplus material away because you don't throw it away, you use it on the next job site just to save it. It was amazing. 600 square meter, I love this job. I didn't know about that kind of product because this is 110 to 120 square meter, my roller, and that's all what I need to create a subfloor for the leveling compound. And also here you see, quite simple to have in mind, half an hour to 45 minutes of curing time and also consumption around 150. Once again, it could be also a little bit more depending how the surface is done. Nice thing on that, if you apply more, the only bad thing is you have to wait a little bit longer. You remember PU 280, less is more. Here you also do not need 3 kilo per square meter, just need longer to cure. There you should sand if you apply too much. And once again, blocking up to 98% in half an hour per coat, and then you block moisture the same day and prepare the subfloor for leveling compound. And give them another half an hour and you can put your leveling compound on the floor. This is in one day, all of these things. For sure, if you got 10,000 square meter, maybe not all in one day, but at the end, if you got a 200, 100, 200 square meter job, it's easy to prepare everything. And still, actually, we are not ready with preparing of the subfloor. Still, all these steps you are doing before breakfast on a job site. Because if you apply the slutty primer, you need a half an hour, then you can have some breakfast. So it's just, honestly, sounds crazy, but this is exactly how you would do it on a job site as well. You go there, maybe you sand the subfloor, you vacuum, then apply depending what kind of primer. And if it's a PU 280 where I need to put 2 coats, when I finish the first, I can start directly with the next one, then the 3045, and then I will have some breakfast. Half an hour breakfast, I don't know how it is here. How much time do you have on a job site for breakfast?
2 hours.
2 hours, oh, great, I will move to South Africa. And then you can do the next step. So also here, application-wise, really the slutty primer, now I like this word. I hope that everybody else worldwide can do something with slutty primer when I'm traveling around. I will call it slutty primer. If you want to try?
That's okay.
No, I was sure you don't want. So you see, it's really, really economic. That's all you need. And now you would ask me, how thick can I go on that? There is actually no limitation how thick I can put my leveling compound on top, as long as it's cured. But, what you say?
If you put it too thick, it's waste.
No, I don't mean, I mean the leveling compound then later on. But also here, correct. If you put more than, actually like this is a perfect way. It's simply waste. If it will happen, because things happen sometimes, then you have to wait simply longer. That's the only thing you have to do. Leveling compound or also repair compound or even a screed can be applied up to 5 centimeters. It can be actually also more applied, but I did not heard more than this 5 centimeters because it doesn't make any sense at the end. Here and there, if there is a hole or something, then it's fine. I heard also once from somebody who did 10 centimeters, but only in some spots because there were some big hollows. So it is fine with that. But I think, especially when we are talking about smoothing compound and leveling compound, what is the average? 2 to 5 millimeters, the average. Here and there you have to put also sometimes 10 millimeters, but I think the normal average for a smoothing compound is not higher than, let's say, 3 to 6 millimeter in average. Correct me if I'm wrong. Once again, for exception, here and there you have to put more, but in general, we are talking about 3 to 6 millimeters. So still, now it is breakfast. Not time for yet, just to have in mind. And now after breakfast, when this will cure, depending what you have to do more. So once again, what products I will show you right now. I know that not everybody is doing that, but especially when we are talking about the preparation for resilient floors or vinyl floors, also the cracks that you possibly got in your screed, you should take care of that, which means to close them. I heard this morning that some people just put some wall leveling compound into the gaps. Not the best solution, but at least something, because simply if you don't close the gaps, when you put your self-leveling compound, people have then I put more leveling compound and it will be fine. It won't be fine. The leveling compound will fall into this gap and it will be transferred to the leveling compound top level, and then later on, if you don't fix it, into the LVT, even in the LVT, but definitely in the vinyl sheet. And you don't want to see this. And therefore, actually, it's a quite easy, once again, it's just what you can do. If you would do it or not, because most of you know what you can do, but if it will be done or not, several things. I need a little bit of your imagination right now because we could not cut into this floor here. So if you see that here, let's say this is the crack in your screed. Once again, not all cracks are allowed to be closed. Simply like an example, the building cracks, don't do that mistake to close them because the customer said, I don't want to see that in my floor. You have to transfer this. There are a lot of cracks you can close, but really this building cracks, if I can call it, I'm not sure if it's the correct English word therefore.
Expansion.
Correct, the expansion joints, but they are going completely through the whole building, means into the walls and onto the ceiling. Yeah. You better don't close them because it's quite easy to figure out if somebody messed it up. You can close them. They will never break in the point where you close them 20 centimeters to the right or to the left, maybe 22 and a half, I don't know, sometimes. Correct. And this is something, don't close them. It is how it is. This is simply physics. You cannot go against physics, period. You can do a lot against physics, but not everything. So, and for normal cracks that you got sometimes in your screed, imagine this will be your crack, the recommendation is to cut with the flex every, 25 to 30 centimeters. I know this is not 30 centimeters. To cut with the flex cross to the gap and put this, we call them wave binder. Some people also just put some nails inside. I'm good also with that as long as they put something. And you install it or insert it like that. Take care, for sure, if you got an underfloor heating, don't go too deep. It's not needed to go deeper than, 8 millimeters. So make sure that you won't do this. And once again, we cannot make some holes here, if you want to have a look. This was almost good. So mixing and closing the gaps with two-component PS205, which is also very friendly for usage. Just open the canister and mix it together. What I recommend, before you start mixing, cut all the possible cracks, vacuum as long as you got electrician. Do this in front after you check the app that you will have electrician. Vacuum everything and then mix the components together. I also really recommend put the A into the B, and I will tell you for only one reason. Because you can use this container later on also for mixing portions. If you don't need to mix everything, if you have only a small crack, then you can also mix one by one. You got a scala on both containers, and simply the reason the white one or where the A component is inside stays cleaner and then you can use this for mixing on another job site some portion. So you don't have to mix every time the whole container.
So you can, if you want to use both later, you can then decanter A and B separately into a container. So you can have, as long as you have one-to-one mix, you can take, say, 100 mils
Correct.
of A, 100 mils of B in a separate
Correct.
container, reclose that.
If you don't have, for example, this one, correct, yes. So mixing is really nothing specific. You see at the moment they are separate. It's a kind of, I don't know, 1 minute or something. Is that good for the mic? What I'm doing? Possibly not. So that's all you need. So that you got the homogeneous color, and then you can start to install that into your cracks. So you would see it is a chemical reaction that would happen there, and it becomes warmer and warmer. And like every chemistry, if you let it together in the canister, it will be faster because it's more inside. If you start your installation, you will have around 20 minutes for the installation. So 15 to 20 minutes. And if you want to close it for whatever reason, or you want to shake it again, or what, actually, the bottle are the same bottle that we have also for our TNG adhesive. So that's the reason for the lid, because when you mix it, use it, because you will throw it away otherwise. It's the same thing, 2 component products. If you don't use them completely, you will throw it away. Nothing, not a new magic or something like that. So you see at the beginning, it's very, very fluent, but as longer you wait, it will become warm. It's also nice for the ladies in winter to warm up their fingers or their feet. You can put it under the blanket, so it's nice. So, cross-selling, I just call this. After you apply this in your cracks, you have 2 options. If you are working with a dispersion primer, you can go with 3 or 45, just with a brush to make them again. Applying that, it makes it very, very smooth. So you need something that to make sure that the leveling compound will stick to that. Even you take 3 or 45 with a brush over the PS205, or just put some sand. Both things are able or possible. Yeah. So far, everything all right? You can follow my not using bad words English for today, this afternoon, which doesn't make it a really big challenge. But I need a movie to give it to my boss, to the big boss, because he never. I tried to take care also when he was in the room, but after 15 minutes, he just went out. Great. So you saw still first day. Now breakfast is done. We vacuum because we got energy. We checked this before. We apply our moisture barrier if it was needed, or the normal dispersion primer if no need for a moisture barrier or something to solidify the subfloor. After you applied the moisture barrier, 2 options, especially for the wood floor installation, can go directly, immediately. So after curing, means after 1.5 hours, you can start your installation. And depending on the job site size, you can also finish the installation. So you block the moisture first day, you install your wood floor, put your skirtings, go home, and write the build. Depending, once again, on the size, like every time. But if you want to install an LVT and the leveling compound is needed, you need an additional step with the slushy primer. Slushy is something different, but slutty primer. For the slutty primer, this needs, again, also half an hour to 45 minutes to cure, and then it's ready for the next steps. Prior that, close the gaps that you got, just to make sure that the leveling compound won't go down and it won't be transferred to the bottom of the top.
Why don't you use that, close the gaps, and then start? What's the difference?
What do you mean? To use that to closing the gaps, or just to first?
Close the gaps.
Yeah, that's completely true. I cannot go that way like I would do it on a job site, but that's completely true. And for what reason as well, huh?
Because that stuff is also very...
Yeah, not only that. Because you will cut first with the flex, if it's not a battery one, you have to have electrician for vacuum and also sanding. You should do everything very close together. No, I'm kidding, but it's exactly that way. You fix first the cracks, and then you sand, vacuum, and apply the primer. Totally correct. Yeah, and then you avoid using some sand because you would put 3 or 45 and then everything is fine. Totally right, correct. But at the end also the thing with electrician, it's also needed to be done very fast after the other one.
You mean electrician?
Power,
Without shedding.
electricity.
Without shedding.
Great. Now it's electric, however, I don't know. We'll call it power. Great. One step, and we are still at the first day. If you want to create some, I don't know, ramps. So you got in the bathroom, maybe in the kitchen, you got some tiles, and people still want to take or to keep their tiles, or even it's a new installation. You got two options how to come on the same level. Float the whole area, which will be great for me because then you need maybe instead of 4 kilo per square meter, 20 kilo per square meter if you want to go 1 centimeter or higher close to the gap. But you can also just create a ramp to get up with your LVT so that you do not have any differences between, I don't know, Marvel and LVT. Therefore, I want to introduce to you the 645, which is a really nice product. And how you see, it's a dust-reduced repair compound. Don't get me wrong. This product, where you got some powder, will never be dust-free. This is impossible. I know there are some here and there some advertising with dust-free. It's impossible because dust-free means you don't use the product because inside it is dust. That's what it is inside. So it's impossible. But you will see during mixing, and thank you again that today I'm able to use the mixer. Yesterday everybody was, oh no, we don't have a mixer. And now he bring me a good Bosch mixer. Yesterday I did it by hand because power, do it by hand. I said, okay, let's do it by hand. And this morning he gave me the good mixer. So use a mixer, it makes your life easier. But if you do not have the mixer, it's also easy to mix it by hand, also possible. Everything is working like that. 645 can be applied actually, I don't want to say zero because there is everything. So from 1 millimeter up to 50 millimeter in one application layer. So really from nothing to that.
And it doesn't
Like this.
go back.
No, not this product because it's a repair compound. A repair compound, if you want it like that, is stiffer than a smoothing compound. And you will see, you can mix it, I don't want to say however you want. This would be stupid. But a repair compound, there is for sure also a ratio how to mix it. But you will, or in the worst case, or I don't know people or too much people that really mix the whole unit at once. Mostly you need a little bit less to create, like I mentioned, the ramps or to fill out some hollows or stuff like that. But correct, exactly. Therefore you need it. I think you asked the same yesterday as well. Exactly therefore, because the curing time, and that's very nice. So after half an hour, you can walk, and after 2 hours, even in 5 centimeters, it is ready for installation. Or to do the leveling compound on top. You don't even have to wait so long if you put your leveling compound on top. So after half an hour, you can, what do you have to do? In between and every time before using leveling compounds or compounds and repair compounds, using a primer. You can talk loud even if you're then the smart girl in the classroom, but that's fine, that's okay. And then you can put your leveling compound and then finally you are done for the first day. But I would like to show you this. And once again, everybody who wants to try is more than invited. So the mixing ratio, like I mentioned, I won't tell you this because it is by feeling. There is or let's put it like that. Don't make out of a repair compound a smoothing compound. Don't go crazy and put water inside just to make it flow by itself. Don't do this. But otherwise, there is not really a there is a recommendation, but it's more like experience to do this. So you see also here, there is not really dust. I don't say no dust. Once again, it's not possible. So you see, like I mentioned, for sure the camera is on. This morning worked perfectly because I put the right amount of water, everything in once. Now you have to adjust, which is totally like on a job site. The unit is 25 kilo. The consumption is as well, if you go really by millimeter, 1.5 kilo per millimeter per square meter, but you won't calculate with the 645 in that dimension because you use it for ramping and different things. It's not needed to be very smooth to modulate or something like that. But I will add a little bit more water just to see if I would do some ramping. It makes your life simply easier. Great. So you see, I did not take it out, so it became really warm. Which is normal because the reaction is still inside and the pot life is shorter because of that. Great. Do anybody want to try this? Oh, everybody wants to do it. Not so many people. So only thing that I want to show you is really, I will put a little bit more later on. If you go really from 5, this is not 5 right now, but really down to 0 or 1, however, it is a very smooth compound, but still can go up to 5 centimeters in one application layer. Oh, everybody wants to. Look.
Yes.
The motivated guys. I will clean this for you just for a second.
Level all this out.
Yeah, just a little bit. You did it also so good, so you can do it also now. So the really nice thing is it is very fine, but still possible to go up to 5 centimeters. And also the curing time. You will see, and also out there are some more panels that we also apply that product. Now, yes, it's 1 or 2 hours ago, but also here when we will finish, even the 5 centimeter thick that I will apply in a second will be ready. You won't go like I will apply it for 5 centimeters, but you will be ready to do the next steps.
Yeah. Okay, 5 centimeters, how long is it perfectly dry?
Same time.
Half an hour.
Half an hour would be ready for walking, and after 2 hours ready for installation. But if you have in mind that you also will put some leveling compound after half an hour, you can put yourself your smoothing compound.
Smoothing compound.
Great, let me clean that. Great. So we're still at the first day on a job site. So we block the moisture with 2 coats of PU 280 up to 98% humidity, 2 hours of curing time. Once again, for wood floor installation, easy direct installation on top. For resilient floors, like you all recommend every time a leveling compound, you need I forgot again. The slutty 3045 special primer, the pink one, to create a bonding bridge later on. If it's needed to create some ramps, take the 645 simply because it's very smooth and it will also cure. What do you say? That's a good one, but it's not a patching compound. Patching compound you apply on the whole area, and mostly they are not allowed to go so thick. Maximum, I don't know, in one application layer, really patching compound, you apply on the whole area, but not so thick. Mostly you are just going less than 1 millimeter.
Just to patch a hole. You can patch a hole with that.
You can patch, but it is a repair compound. So why this is, I don't know, I thought that actually you really use a leveling compound. Patching compound have a big disadvantage if you do the whole area. You know what? You will only transfer all the unevenness in each level of patching compound you are going. I know in some countries you can talk like hell, you can talk to the walls, it's better, they won't understand it. They would also want to explain me that 3 times patching is faster, maybe it is, and also a better result. This is totally, and I cannot use another better word, bullshit. Because you will just cover the unevenness. Using the small trowel, which you use mostly, and you go flat over the floor. You will everything cover again in the next and in the next level. And you are not necessarily faster, and I also do not really think if it is cheaper or not. But in some countries, they swear to God that this is the best way to do it, which is totally not true. Because a smoothing compound later on, you can, like I mentioned, you can take a kind of patch compound or the repair compound to take bad unevenness away, to create ramps, to make it a little bit flatter if you want it like that. But the end result or the end product pre-installing the LVT or vinyl sheet should be a smoothing compound. And the result will be every time, and we can sit here till the next 3 weeks and you cannot convince me that a patching compound will be better than a smoothing compound. It's impossible. Yes, sir?
That's correct. What you are saying is correct. I was using that one. The pitching corner. It leaves everything like
You cover simply by patch the whole floor, which you are, and 2 things. You will never apply the right amount what the manufacturer of the floor covering will tell you. I had this discussion in a specific country in South America, really huge discussion. They said, yeah, I apply with my patch compound the right amount. And I asked them, how much do you really apply by patching? Even 3 times. Maybe 1 millimeters. And then I asked them, did you check the recommendation? Just of a very worldwide global player of resilient floors. Yeah, he said 2 millimeters. It's yeah, and that's exactly what you are doing. You are working every time against the recommendation of the floor manufacturer. And if you want it like that in the whole system, the floor manufacturer is the one who tells you what to do. I also totally agree. It's not every time working this way that you apply minimum of 2 millimeters. But if you simply every time do it wrong, which means less than 1 millimeter, this is quite risky because it doesn't matter who will be on the job site. The floor manufacturer, they need not even a second to see. And I promise you, if I will come there, I see through, I don't want to say necessary, but I can see almost through the PVC if there was 2 millimeter or not of leveling compound because everything will be transferred through. So take care. Patching, yes, if you want to modulate something or from your a repair compound to do some stair noses to create a ramp, but the last before you install your LVT vinyl sheet should be a smoothing compound because that gives you the best result, and at the end you save money for the adhesive because if it's uneven, it's simply you need more adhesive. And also the installation way, it's not fun to install on a bad floor, or which was bad prepared. So that's why a smoothing compound should be the last thing before you start installing your vinyl sheet. And therefore, I would also like to introduce to you the 680, which is also dust reduced, once again, never be dust free. And a good leveling compound, the mixing ratio here is 6 liters per 25 kilo bag. Have in mind, don't go crazy. A good leveling compound can deal with more or less cup of coffee of water. Let's call it, I don't put coffee inside. I mean a cup of water. And the thing is, nobody will put in a leveling compound less water. Everybody would have in mind, let's put more because then it's flowing better. And I totally agree because some leveling compounds are really hard to apply or not really a good way to self-leveling attitude if you want it like that. 680, if you necessarily want to put 200 grams more of water, it's okay. It will deal with that. Not needed, but it will deal with that. But if you go crazy and you put 500 or 1 kilo more, again, you will destroy the leveling compound. Once again, 680, for example, I think you got 65 to 68 ingredients inside. Water is one of that, and then you will switch everything around. It is designed to work with a certain amount of water, and if you put 1 kilo or 1 liter more of water inside, you will destroy simply the leveling compound. it will not cure the right way. The heavier parts will go down, and just the soft will stay on top, and then you will have a soft powder at the end. If you go crazy with 200 because you think it's better, keep going. It's fine with me, not needed, but do it. And also have in mind, especially in summer when you are working, use every time cold water. And sometimes it could be also useful if you got electrician to go to an ice machine to put some ice inside. I know maybe not so many times this happened. We did a job in Saudi Arabia. For sure, you got in during the day 45 degrees, and then you can put as cold water as you want. It still became warm. And then we had to add some ice cubes inside just to keep it cold. Because adding warm water can also easily happen that your mixer will stay in the bucket after 5 seconds of mixing if it's a hot water or warm water. So that's why also have in mind the same thing. This is but for all leveling or all smoothing compounds. The same thing also have in mind if you got the leveling compound for 3 days in summer in South Africa in your van, also the powder will become warm. And not even so less, because in the van you can get easily 70, 75 degrees, maybe more. So also that can have an influence, once again, on all leveling compounds. If somebody else tells you, no, my leveling compound is not sensitive to too hot condition, the powder, this is not true. It's simply, it's warm up, then also the water, it will accelerate the reaction, and it will possibly cure in the bucket before you even are ready with mixing. So these are extreme scenarios, but just that you heard about it. Especially if you are doing a big installation where you need to mix it, to have in mind that the water is as cold as possible. In 95% of the cases, the water that you get out of the pipe, even in summer and even in very, very hot countries, it's fine. This with Saudi Arabia, it was an extremely example, but it can also happen. Just that you are a little bit sensitive on that. Coming back to the 680, a dust-reduced product can be applied from 1 to 10 millimeters in one application layer, and even in 10 millimeters will be cured overnight, which means 12 hours at the end. And it will be ready for installation. You can mix it with, like I mentioned, 6 liters of water. And before this session, we had quite good question because people asked, yeah, but sometimes if I measure leveling compound, the moisture meter, so the Tramex, will show me a humid result, which is true. If you use the same device for screed or cement-based concrete, you will get another result on a leveling compound. You cannot use the same tool, therefore, actually, because a leveling compound, it's totally different designed like a screed. So what does this mean? That yes, actually, a device that shows you that the leveling compound is humid, but still the leveling compound could be ready for installation. Once again, if you apply 10 millimeters, also for the 680, you got 90% of humidity during the night, possibly that it is not cured, or the possibility is quite big that it's not cured under these conditions. But if you have more or less normal conditions, whatever this might mean, so 75% RH, 5 to 10, 12, 15 degrees, it will be cured overnight. So this more or less 12 hours. If you have really bad conditions, maybe you should really wait this 24 hours.
So how many speeds do you get on a bike?
We figured out before it was around 5.5, but we calculate with 3 millimeters per square, which means 1.5 per square meter per millimeter. So it means 4.5 kilo plus minus. But we decided before that people said, which I totally understand, let's have in mind 5 kilo per 3 millimeter, because it's just, how can I say, all these tests also from other manufacturers are done on perfect conditions. And on job sites, on a more or less even screed, you sometimes have some also small unevenness, which affects at the end also the consumption on the leveling compound. That's why it is, so the consumption is somewhere 1.5 kilo per millimeter per square meter. That's the consumption of it. And have in mind, it's a 25 kilo bag, not 25 kilo bag. So you got 5 kilo more. Yes, mixing with 6 liters of water. Do we have yeah, it might be there. Yes. Thank you. And also here, please, if you want to come closer, just to see that it's really a dust-reduced product. Once again, I totally understand if you are on a big job site and people would say, yeah, I don't care about dust because it's anyway a big job site, but it's not only for the job site, it's also for the guys who are breathing in the whole time that things. And also, Mrs. Smith will be possibly quite happy if you don't mess around at her house, if you are doing her bathroom and everything is flowing around. So that's everything you got there. Thank you. That's okay. That's fine. Just leave it, just let it there. Thank you. Now, I got this question in the last days many times, never got this from somewhere else. If I mix it too fast, do I put too much air inside? Maybe for some products that can be a problem, not for the 680. But that's a question that really reminds me on my job site because they were the old experienced guys and they said just mix the leveling compound and normally you mix it for 1.5 minutes depending how much it was needed. And then they said, yeah, now you have to wait for a minute till you mix it again to allow the bubbles or the air should come out. Leveling compound like the 680, after you mix it like that, can be directly applied. No need for airing time, if you want to call it like that. Definitely not. But the guys, I remember this so well because they told me now you have to wait a minute. I said, I cannot work with a clock on with a watch on my hand. You're stupid. You have to take 3 times out of your cigarette and then you know that it's ready for installation. I said, but I don't smoke. Yeah, then you're not the right guy for this job. So that's also a reason why it's not needed to mix them again. Let's put it here. For the application, definitely makes your life easier and but by far more safe, use a rake with the right, let's call them blade. Mostly available are R2, R3 and R4. But be aware that R2, R3 and R4 won't give you the same in millimeters. So an R2 rake like that, which we put here, it's not 2 millimeters. Simple because the water will also cure out of the leveling compound and means an R2 will give you, it's a little bit different, between 1.6 to 1.8 millimeters. R3 also not 3 millimeters, it will be 2.5 to 2.7 to 8 millimeters, and R4, if a higher level thickness is needed, will also give you 3.5 maybe, 3.7, something like that, just to have this in mind. Most important is when you are using an R2 because you do not have this 2 millimeters. Even if you might have. If you are using an R3, you're every time safe because you would mostly have the minimum required thickness layer of leveling compound of 2 millimeters. Actually a little bit more. And for sure, put a stick. And this is when it comes to, I will do it on my knees because I did it every time like that, which is totally stupid, but I think that I can control it better. I know it is not, especially not for good leveling compounds because they need just a little bit to show where to go, but I will still do it on my knees if I would level, it doesn't matter. The biggest area that I leveled was 1,500 square meter. I was completely done after I did this on my knees, but I did it on my knees because, stupid, once again, because I did it every time like that. I know that this is a stupid, really probably the most stupid thing you can say, but I still do it. So I understand also the older guys that say we did it the same thing like every time because I still do it like that. But here I just want to show you, and I really hope for the other session it worked out. Let's see if this is also dense, the leveling compound or the floor. We put here Pu280 and I want to say splashy, but I mean slushy. No, slurry. No, not slurry. Say it again.
Slurry.
slurry, pink primer. So you would see that, once again, I really hope that they are not going nowhere out of the panel. And that's all I want actually to do. Just to see that, once again, I don't call it, it is a self-leveling compound. We would call it self-leveling compound, but for sure, a self-leveling compound, especially on a bigger area, you use a rack to support a little bit the flowing attitudes. And you see here, I do not do more. It's the same what I did also there without using a rake. This looks not so perfect because we move it from here to there, and we have been just happy that we did not broke it before it was cured. And that's all just to see that it's an amazing flow which helps to get a really very, very smooth subfloor. And the result you can actually see there, because this was done a couple of hours before, not even a couple of hours, 1 hour before maybe. Do I need a sparking roller? I want to say a spike roller? Yes and no. If it be only one room, I won't use it necessarily because it doesn't make sense. The smoothing properties are amazing, so I don't need it. If I do a whole way where I maybe in a hospital and I am coming from more rooms together in the floor in a whole way, I would use it definitely because that helps to allow the leveling compound to be every time fresh when it comes together, to avoid any transmission into the floor covering later on. But if you got, I don't know, Granny Smith's 25 square meter bathroom, or maybe they are bigger in South Africa, I don't know, 50 square meter, bless you, then it's not needed. But if you're really in a hospital, like I mentioned, and you are coming with more room from different sides, then yes, it's every time good to use it therefore. And you
Say you only do hot valves. How does it join?
What do you mean? Once
So
again.
basically, these people only want the passage, their rooms, and maybe the dining room, but because everything's standing in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
But the next day, they move it over.
Yeah, just go close to the one that you leveled. Go a little bit over. So if you install a little bit, then put all the furnitures in the bedroom to have the living room more or less free, and go with the leveling compound a little bit over the already one. And then when you are next day, after you also put leveling compound in the other room, sand it. And when I see go a little bit, I don't mean 3 millimeters. So really just that you are a little bit over that. And by sanding, you will get this away. But really go over. Don't go, how can I say, just close to each other. Just a little bit over. Overlap a little bit, and then you can sand this out quite easy. And you see, that's all what I did. I did not even touch it, and it goes everywhere. And we did the same over there. Not more, not less. I don't want to clean the rake. That's the only reason I don't use it.
That's good.
And still, now the first day finished. We applied the moisture barrier. We blocked the moisture. We put the pink primer. Prepare the several levels, I want to say. The ramps if needed. Close some gaps if was also needed. And apply your leveling compound. Still, the first day. Apply your leveling compound up to 3, 4, 5, 6 millimeters. Coming next day, even on bad conditions, which means high humidity in the atmosphere, and start your installation. Mixing with 6 liters of waters. Don't go crazy to 2 or 3 liters. That's going to be very stupid to do it, but it's not a good idea. Let it cure overnight and start your installation next day. You okay? You want a small break? Because at least we finished the first day. You want to go to a restroom or?
Please.
Okay. Then we finished the first day and I don't know, 10 minutes. That's okay. We can install the second day our floor. Thank you. You see leveling compound is cured. You can do your installation. Should I sand or should I not sand the subfloor? It's not needed. It was just the adhesive. Don't look that I did something stupid. It was just the adhesive where I was sticking to the floor. I would sand it because I did it every time like that. I hate to say it, but I feel better and comfortable. Even if the floor is amazing, perfect like this one or like that one, I will give him a 60 or 80 buffer with 60 or 80 grit with the buffer, just to feel good if I got electrician. And in the same token, if I sand it, I hope that I still have some power to vacuum as well. But also be aware, for good leveling compounds, don't over sand it. Why? Because a good leveling compound is not like in the past. If you sand too much, even with the 60 or 80, you can polish them, which means that the absorbency, which the leveling compound is actually there at the end, is not anymore the same given like before. So good leveling compounds, 60, 80 grit, buffer, really, this is now completely Jinglish, fly over and then vacuum, and then it's fine. Then you're on the safe side and keep going to do your installation.
So what's the reason for that if it's a very, very good self-leveler? Is that just to take up any imperfections that could
Correct.
potentially transfer through to the vinyl?
Yeah, it's not, they won't be necessarily transferred to the vinyl, but maybe you got some pinholes because of curing and the air condition there, and that can give you some pinholes over there. It's simply a kind of cleaning sanding, if you want it like that. Not more, not less. And yes, if you got, like you explained, the sanding from, you finished one room and then next day or later you put your leveling compound, you went a little bit overlapping on the old one, also to make sure that at the end you don't have any visible transfer into the ready covering. That's the reason also, therefore. And now before we will speak about adhesive, I just want to explain also a little bit about adhesive, because dispersion-based adhesive is not dispersion-based adhesive. They are differences. And today we will speak about one or two products. It is, let's start with the, let's call them classic adhesive, the wet set adhesive. Wet set adhesive means you apply the adhesive on the floor, wait your 5 to 10 minutes so that the water can evaporate up in the air and down into the leveling compound. And then you start your installation of about 15 to 20 minutes, depending how the adhesive is designed. For sure, don't get me wrong, every time when I'm talking about airing time or waiting time, there is not really a waiting time. Because if you are applying, let's say, vinyl sheet and you got your 5 pieces, 2 meters by, I don't know, 10 meters, you will put them anyway in the half and you will start applying the adhesive. And after, I don't know, 2 or maybe 3 pieces that are 5 by 10, you start the installation from the first one. So there is never a waiting time or really a waiting time. So you apply adhesive and then 5 minutes. Anyway, any installer, they don't look at the clock. They have the best clock. They see if it's ready or not by using their finger. They know when it's a little bit sticky. It is also a kind of experience, but they figure it out when it's the right time to install. So this is the wet set adhesive, if you want it like that. If you wait too long for a wet set adhesive, so half an hour, 45 minutes after the airing time, very possible that the adhesive would be dead, so it won't have any connection anymore. This is classic wet set adhesive with very high shear strength at the end. Then not more and more, actually very, very common and very loved by the installer are the so-called pressure sensitive adhesive. You apply the adhesive, wait longer, a little bit longer, so means not 5 to 10 like a wet set, maybe 25 minutes, and then you got an open or a working time of about 80 to 100 minutes. This specific for the Wakol 3320. Some others longer, some shorter, but now it comes to the very important thing. Also, a pressure-sensitive adhesive have to fulfill some requirements, which means after 24 hours, 1 Newton per square millimeter by pull strength, shear strength. And a lot of pressure-sensitive adhesive that blame to have 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of working time, they do not fulfill these requirements. Now people say, I don't care about the shear strength because it's important for me, it sticks and I go home and take my money. Yes, but no, because do this in a hospital with PVC and there was not enough power because he installed after 3, 4, 5 hours. And then you will see what will happen, especially when they start moving I don't know, just an empty hospital bed is around 200 kilo. And then you will see what will happen if you have 200 kilo divided by, I don't know, maybe like that, if they are punctual on the wheels and they move it around. Then you will see how nice the floor covering will also start to move. Because they installed in pressure sensitive and not enough power. Also the 3320, which is also an amazing pressure sensitive adhesive, you can install next day. it will be a tackifier. So only a fixation, it will be sticky. I promise you it will be sticky, but it won't give you the power which is needed. And that's what you need, especially when you are doing a hospital, for example. You will get in problems. For sure, you can also install LVT, definitely, but also with a pressure-sensitive adhesive, it works totally fine. But coming to pressure-sensitive adhesive and, let's say, in general LVT, quality of the LVTs really goes down. So I remember when I was an installer, we paid, and I worked for a quite big company. Like we got 25 Owen installers, so quite a big one. So we got really a good purchasing price for LVT, and we paid 30 euro per square meter in this time. Long time ago, like an installer. Now you can buy, at least in Germany, and for residential, don't get me wrong, you know, LVT got 0.3, 0.5, 0.7 of usage on the top layer. For a residential, 0.3, 30 euro. Now, like a house owner, so the end consumer, if you want it like that, you can get it for 11 euro. Everybody wants to earn money with that. Margins go lower and lower. How do you get a cheaper product? Unfortunately, many times, not only people say, yeah, but the manufacturer got a big margin. Yes, but also to a certain point. If, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, you got, let's say 20 manufacturers, now you will get maybe 300. So somewhere they have to change it, and I don't say that all, but a couple, they have to adjust their formulation, which means it becomes more or less quality-wise. And where does the quality lose? In dimension stability. The dimension stability is, let's call it the stability that ensures that you do not get some gapping. And therefore, you need also the right adhesive. To give you just an example, in Germany, just in Germany, the manufacturer, and also because people are quite crazy a little bit or more, they said for the same product, so LVT, it doesn't matter, really big global player, use a wet set, at best fiber reinforced adhesive. Crossing just a border to, let's stay with Holland because it's quite close to where I was living, use a suitable adhesive. So you see already, depending in where you are, and also the expectation, where the expectation are. In Germany, because they know they are working very close to any European and DIN and DIN EN norming, they really want the best possible and strongest adhesive, water-based. Crossing just the border, take, with other words, you pay beer, take whatever adhesive you want to stick it down. So just to have this in mind. And when we talk about pressure-sensitive adhesive and wet set adhesive, a wet set adhesive will every time gives you the higher shear strength. Simply, I know it's a little bit crazy to say that it will penetrate because we are talking at least about dense products, so there is not really a penetration, but you will have a little bit more transfer into the backing of the LVT or also PVC sheet, and that will give you more strength to the floor, especially when the crazy things starts happening. So movement, solar, like we see in an amazing picture over there. I would like to have this house, by the way. Also high temperature, also there when you start doing the installation. All dispersion-based products, also from other competitors, to get they are really high strength, they need 3 days. So please, if possible, make sure that the solar power that it's coming to the window, at least for this 2 to 3 days, they do not have 100% solar on top on the covering. Just that the adhesive got his power. This is the first step, but also the covering many times should be, how can I say, allowed to be installed in high temperature areas. I know that you won't find this necessary in the recommendation because then they blame you the adhesive is not strong enough, but don't get me wrong, at the end, LVT, it's plastic. And we all know what we put in front of what happens if plastic gets heat. Not more, not less. So that's why also the products have to be a kind of design therefore.
So you're also referring to, when you're referring to not quite the penetration, I think the word we're looking for is the grab strength.
No, it is actually really, it is really the penetration, because if you would compare, honestly, the pressure sensitive adhesive with the initial grab strength and the wet set one, you would have in mind and you would prefer the sticky phase adhesive, because the first feeling, it will be stronger. because it's already, how can I say, more in already the reaction. The wet set, if we put here 3320, wait 25 minutes, 3307, wait just 10 minutes, and we will pull both out, you will have here definitely more power. But if we measure tomorrow, you got here the highest power possible. So because of the wet set. It will, once again, penetration is the wrong word, but it will, let's say it will grab the backing better than a pressure sensitive adhesive. Don't get me wrong, 3320, the advantage of the pressure sensitive adhesive is simply you can apply bigger areas and you have a little bit more secure if you do not work as fast or if you are not so experienced in that application way. Otherwise, honestly, I recommend the 3307, and for LVT, honestly, the easiest way, apply as much adhesive as your arm is in length, because that's also the same way that you can install your LVT. For vinyl sheet, it is a little bit like, how is the job site designed, let's say it like that, because like I mentioned before, if you got, I don't know, 5 pieces of vinyl sheet, which is mostly 2 meters in width, and then it could be whatever, 10 meters, you will every time put this in half and start the installation. And if you finish two, three lines, then you can also start installing the PVC and put over the other side. So it's every time related to the job site.
Sorry, Alex.
Yes, sir.
With regards to both glues, what is the green strength like? In other words, the ability to disperse heat as evenly as possible over a wider period, because I know that certain glues have what they call the green strength, the ability to distribute heat. So when you have a floor that's exposed like that, has lots of sun, vinyl is hyperthermosensitive, so therefore it's going to heat up like that. Are both glues equally capable of, when that heat transfer comes through, to distribute that evenly? Because we know that when glue gets too hot, it starts to...
So in the moment when, after this 3 days, you should give him this 3 days to be completely cured before he is completely, the sun will touch it. Then nothing will happen anymore. But also there, for sure, you cannot, in many houses, you cannot make sure that for 3 days there is no direct sun on the floor covering. At least for the first 24 hours, and then you're fine, because you won't have sun. Also not in South Africa in the night, so it will be time that the floor is, or the adhesive is curing or relaxing, if you want it like that. But for sure, as longer you can avoid that you have really high solar gain, as better it is, at least for this first 2 to 3 days. If you want an adhesive which is directly there, so high pressure, high whatever adhesive you want to call it, also for outside installation for LVT, then we can also supply you with the MS552, like the name already is telling you, is a silent-based adhesive for resilient floors, for inside-outside installation, for wall application, in shower application if you want to do this, because I think this became more and more popular to put your LVT on the wall, what I also did.
One of these in the shower application.
In the shower, no. Why not? Because it's water. If the water will penetrate, once again, if you would put it on the floor and there is water, it's fine, nothing will happen. But in a shower, you expect definitely more water than on your floor. So an MS adhesive, so silent-based adhesive, modified silent, is not sensitive to humidity. Actually, it will cure by humidity if you want it like that. So that will help you. So the 552 would be a problem solver, not a day-by-day adhesive, definitely not. So once again, it will be great if everybody will use the 552 day by day, because then I will invite you to Germany if you use every day by day the 552, believe me. But I bet you won't do it. So the daily bread, if you want it like that, adhesive might be the 3307, which is once again a water-based dispersion adhesive, a wet set adhesive with a really high shear strength, and also recommended for LVT. Not only LVT, for sure, also cushion vinyl sheets. Oh, good one. Using trowel notch, very important. A1 or A2. I know mostly it is a A2 recommended, but most of the people are using A1, which is also not bad. But let me explain just a little bit the differences. So with a A2 or A1 trowel notch, you might apply 200, 220 grams per square meter. Possibly for different supplier, more or less the same. A2 will give you 300 to 330, so definitely more. Why is it a little bit, let's say, challenging just using an A1 if you do not have in mind to switch also, or to change the blade. For example, like for our trowels, I'll take this, then you can show it, and I take this one. Because A1 trowel, like I mentioned, you should change it after 30 to 40 square meter, latest. Because at the beginning you will have your 220 gram, but as longer you use it, you will have less, which means 150. And that can already give you some issues. Using an A2, also using it too long, so means 50, 60, 100 square meter, won't be the first time that I saw this, still will give you this 200, 210, 220 gram, even if it's used too much. So anyway, a trowel blade, the one that definitely we supply simply because we figure out you got also some that are ready with the tiers here inside, but too expensive and you don't need them. Because these blades are really inexpensive and you can switch it. You can also give it to the installer and say, yeah, you got one blade, half bucket empty, turn the blade and use it for the rest of the bucket. And then you know, or at least you secure that you apply the right amount of adhesive to get the proper installation. And they are really, believe me, really inexpensive, and that makes your life easier and no headaches. They don't have to start cutting something inside because that takes longer than anything else. Good. So I will use a A2 trowel notch. Next question that I got in the last days, can I put the material back in the bucket and use it again? For sure. Because mostly when you are applying a bigger area, many times, you will apply more than you actually need. So for sure you can put it back. You can also use it after 1, 2, or 3 months, but be aware that if you put it there for 1 year, you will have some interaction. Simple. This is water, and imagine what happened, put, I don't know, a bottle of water and let it in somewhere in a corner for 1 year. You will see that there is something happening inside. Same thing here. And in the moment when you, after you apply the adhesive, and you put it back in your bucket, you will put also some bacteria or whatever stuff from the floor. Even if it was perfect vacuum, because you got what? Power for the vacuum. So it will still, you will put some bacteria inside and they will work. Once again, not after 1 month, 2 months, but this is for all dispersion-based products. But it's still, once again, for 3, 4 months, no problem with that. If you really, I don't know, put it in your warehouse and then you forget about it, then open and see if something happened. I don't say that necessarily something will happen, but have a look before you apply it on a job site. And things that are also important to be able to put back the surplus material. So this is also a property that is quite nice. It should be easy for apply, but also easy to put back the surplus material. So somebody wants to try? Okay, nobody wants to try. I see again. Oh. You think you can make it better today? No. And also, there is no smell. It's just the only smell, if you want it like that, is the typical dispersion smell that you can smell a little bit, but not really much. No, you want to try? You don't have. Just to smell, just to smell. No. Great. Now you got your 5 to 10 minutes of, let's call it airing time, or not let's call it, this is actually exactly what the adhesive is doing now. Allow the water out of the adhesive to go into the leveling compound as well up into the air. And then you can start your installation with LVT, PVC, vinyl sheet, whatever you want to install on top. Don't take rubber. Rubber is specific. We have to have in mind that rubber is a little bit different. And what I want to mention, don't be aware to ask if you got the specific installation. Because like I mentioned the days before, our range of wood floor adhesive is like that, comparing to our range of adhesive for resilient floor, which is possibly like that. Because different floor coverings, different demands, different behavior of the floor coverings, and that's why here and there you need a specific product. The same like if you have a conductive installation to do, many times in hospitals, especially in surgery rooms or in data centers, you need an adhesive which allows you to bring away the conductivity or the electric power, if you want it like that, to the ground. It is more specific. This topic in conductive installation, we can talk for 2 days just about this topic, but just that you have in mind that there is a solution, and actually an easy solution if you do it the right way. Nothing which is different to what we spoke about, just the adhesive is different. But this is something that the architect will tell you, how high the conductivity, blah, 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 have to be. And you have to take care of that, because if you do an installation, let's say in a surgery, without a conductivity, let's say in best case, nobody will die, but the machines will be broken, which is also not necessarily the worst thing. They will cost a couple of possibly million. But then if they have to close the surgery room, I don't know in South Africa, but don't get me wrong, I know that you got amazing doctors here, because just a story, but my eyes was operated or surgered by a lady from South Africa for not using any more glasses. And a surgery, it's 250,000 per day if they cannot work. And then good luck with that. So the machines would be the cheapest part of that one, if you have to tear out everything and to make it new again to get this conductivity. Have in mind from beginning, be smart from beginning and ask, and then there is a solution which is quite easy to fix it. And just another adhesive with some specific ingredients, but nothing that it's, I don't know, too big scientist. Yes, we will wait maybe another 5 minutes. Once again, first day. We block the moisture, put the slutty primer, the pink one, 3045, close the gaps, create a ramp if needed, or also some stair noses if also needed, and apply a smoothing compound, leveling compound. Everything the same day. So you don't have to come second time on the job site to put the second coat of any other moisture barrier, and then wait another 24 hours or 12 hours, come back, put the leveling compound, and then maybe the third or fourth day to come to the job site to start the installation. You can do, honestly, around, I tell you what I'm doing with one of my colleagues, subfloor prep, Pew 280 twice, 3045, ramps, blah, 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 a leveling compound, 2 to 3 days. Once again, we are both, we can work without talking to each other, 100 square meter in 2 days. Maybe 2.5, it's a little bit more complicated, including skirtings. So just to have in mind how fast you can work and how quality-wise you can work. Because this curing time and this application ways, which are easy, gives you more time to still work fast but accurate. After you applied your leveling compound, next day, like I mentioned, I hate to say this, but I will send it because I send it every time like that. But it's not even so worse to send a leveling compound with 60 or 80 grit. Vacuum, once again, to do this you need power. But you can plan this from the day before. You know when you got power or not here in South Africa. That's what I learned. And start your installation. Use a wet set adhesive if you want it. So don't apply for LVT, or if you are fast, you can also apply more. But the recommendation, if you are only 2 guys or something, apply as long as your arm is. And when you finish the first line, actually your partner can start installation, and then he come closer to you and you can apply the next line. That's how it works. Use a roller, definitely. For all, every time a heavy roller. 50 kilo, 30 kilo, 50 is recommended. My own one is 30 because it's easier to carry. That's the only reason, and it works perfect. If you have a special application for the vinyls, I don't know, like we spoke about LVT in wet areas or entrance areas or cooling houses, or I don't know if this is the right word, in restaurants, the big fridges, you want it like that, use a specific one, so the MS552, for example, or I don't know, ceiling installation of LVT if you want it like that. Once again, the daily product should be the 3307 or the pressure sensitive adhesive. For special, super special application, for example, the 552, or if needed, once again, we just touch a little bit all these things and conductive adhesive if also needed for data centers and hospitals, I would say, first of all. Good. Any questions so far? There are every time just two options when nobody asks question. I did not so well, or it was so good that nobody had any questions anymore, or they just only want to go home.
You explained very well.
I like this best. Great. So if you do not have any other questions, thank you for your time. And tell me once again, I really forgot again. Damstock, I liked it.
Guys, I'd like to thank Juan and Paul for coming through. I hope this has been beneficial. Just to accentuate, as I said in the beginning, the importance of why we need this. And this is not just a once-off. This will be continuous. It will be in small stages. Azure is also going to offer to all their clients product orientation, etc., which you will hear filter through. And I'll be assisting in that. And it's twofold. Number one, just to ensure that the client education is there, number one, from a basic terms and slightly deeper technical. And number two, to ensure that the product itself that is being used, that it's not done injustice. People say vinyl's horrible, it's terrible, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, look at speaking and all sorts of things. And I'm sure everybody's come across this. At the end of the day, it all comes down to floor preparation, which is the most essential part of it. So I trust it has been beneficial, and thank you very much for your time.